Hi, welcome to Crafting with Kimberly. Today we are making little angels or fairies out of a glass bottle. This is kind of a farmhouse shabby chic version where I've taken pieces of fabric, cut them into strips, used it that way, or you can cut a piece of cardboard and have more of a solid design. This is a great project to be able to use up scraps of fabric if you have them, or lace, or give you a good excuse to go buy some if you don't have any fabric lying around the house. So what we're going to need, obviously, get some fabric. Any kind will do. Anything that you find is appealing to you, of what you want your angel or your fairy, whatever you want to call it, whatever you think looks best for that. You can use lace, thin little pieces, get a wide piece, cut that up. You can even use the thicker ribbons. I have found with like these thick pattern ribbons, they have a tendency to be very stiff. I mean, you can see I can kind of hold that up and it's not going anywhere. It's very, very thick. So a good way to be able to use these in this project is to soften it. Best way to do that, crumple it up. Just keep wrinkling it up. Just squeeze it, wrinkle up, undo it, do it again. Do that a few times. And then what happens is it kind of breaks the stiffness down. It will be a little bit more flexible. It's never going to, be as flimsy and flyy as lace would, but just by really crinkling and maneuvering it, you can soften these pieces up and then they're easy to use. I also have some gold braided fringe. This was kind of fun. This to me looked like hair, so I used it that way as hair. So that was fun. You're definitely going to want a glue gun for this project, or a very strong glue like E6000 that works very well. I'm using a craft stick or a popsicle stick. So you want to get one of those if you're going to be doing the type that has the fabric or the lace hanging down. That is what we're going to be using for that. Otherwise, if you're going to do the thicker winged one like this, just get yourself some stiffer cardboard. Great way to do that is just get the back of a cereal box or any other type of cardboard boxes that you have around the house. You could use a corrugated cardboard box, but I don't think you really need it to be that thick. So any packaging, food packaging cardboard, such as a cereal box, works great for that. You might want to have a piece of paper if you want to practice cutting out wings if you're using the cardboard. This works really well because then you can fold it, you can trace it out, see what works best for you, see what style that you want, or just go straight onto the cardboard, erase the lines if you don't like it, and continue on that way. And for our base, I found these really pretty bottles from Dollar Tree. They're meant to hold basically, liquid, anything you want to put in them, oils, soaps, anything like that. But they come with this really pretty glass top. And on many of the Dollar Tree DIY sites, I saw a lot of people turning them into angels. Dollar Tree usually will sell plastic angel wings around Christmas time. So that's what most of the people were using as their wings, actually putting those on. It's a Christmas ornament that they get. But that's why I wanted to say, well, I want to make them now and I don't have any. So how can we do this? And this gives just kind of a really fun look. You're still getting the idea of an angel, but again, using more of the farmhouse style, the shabby chic style. So those are your basic supplies. Obviously, a pair of scissors, pencil and paper again to be able to trace and draw out your shapes. Ribbons of any kind, that works too. Buttons, beads, anything you want to accessorize with it. I have this really neat old container from Woolworths way back when, container of these string beads. So there's just a ton of them in there. So I try to use these on projects when I can, and they're just really pretty. But you can also still buy strings of beads, and those will work really well for this project. So let's turn the camera around, get a little closer so you can see better, and start our angel fairies. I like to protect my work surface when I'm working. I have just a plastic cloth on my table. This actually is a dry cleaner's bag. And I'm also using just those plastic placemats that you can get at Dollar Tree. These are a great surface to be able to glue, and you can see paint on. And, you know, once they finally get really too bad, then you can just toss them out. But they last a really long time. They're not pretty after you've used them for a while, but they really work. So let's start with the cardboard type of angel. I've found the best way to do this is to first take your bottle, take a piece of paper. I'm just using an 8.5 by 11 piece of copy paper, which I've already cut out a wing and I don't want to waste it. So what you basically do, take your paper lengthwise, fold it in half. By folding it in half, you only have to be able to draw one wing. Then you know it's definitely going to be symmetrical. You want to take your folded piece, have your opening to your left side, have your folded edge to the middle. The best way to do it is to take your bottle, actually put it right on top of the paper, so you know how large do I want to make my wing. And I basically look at the bottle and say, all right, I'm gonna basically in my mind divide that in half. So I'm gonna put it right as close as I can to the middle of that paper. I'm just gonna hold it there. I'm gonna take my pencil. I'm gonna say, well, what kind of wings do I want? I have a few already drawn out. There's some very kind of droopy wide ones that would look like that. Not as long. Some wider ones, which are going to give you much more look of your fabric. That would look that way. And like the type that I used on this one, you can see these wings are kind of drooping down, and that's what that one looks like. But you draw whatever type of wing you like. So you're going to start from about this angle right here. I have this in the middle, and I'm starting about here. So I kind of want it to go up, maybe up a bit. Bring it down some more, and then maybe go back up. So that's what that looks like. And I would bring that in to here. You want to have at least over 1/2 inch wide here, because this is the part that you're actually going to be gluing on the back. If it's too wide, it bows in too much. So you want at least 1/2. So I'm going to take this and cut this out, keeping it folded. I may follow my lines, I may not. I may add a little extra to it as I go, keeping it folded. Coming down here, bringing it down. I think this may be too wide, so because I can't add paper, but I can take paper away. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just follow this up a little in a bit more from where I had my line. because then I can always cut more off. Kind of like a snowflake, cutting out snowflakes. So I have wings that look like that. So you basically want to just take your bottle and put your wings to it and say, well, do I like the way that looks? Yeah, and I think those look pretty good. If I didn't like it, this was the other one. This is the pair that I think I might, no, actually, I think I like. This is the pair I had cut before, very wide, whereas this one comes in a little bit more. So it's basically, you know, your choice as to what you think looks better. You know, what type of wings? Do you want a lot of space to have away from the body? Or do you like it in a little bit more? Would you rather flip it over, have wings coming up? It's your choice. So doing it on the paper first, really, another great way is, instead of using copy paper and wasting good paper, everybody gets junk mail. Take a piece of the junk mail and draw it on that before you throw out your junk mail. That saves a lot of time too. So you basically just kind of see which pair of wings, you know, do you like? I kind of like these, but I think I'm still going to come in a little bit more. So I'm basically going to marry, I think, the two of those. So now that I have the wings that I want, I'm going to come over to the back of my cereal box, lay it on there, and I'm going to take my pencil now, and now I'm going to trace around my wings. So I'm just going to follow that up there. I'm going to follow this around. I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. Follow that around. And again, if you're a little off, you're okay. I also want to add in a little bit more. I liked it coming here. I'm just going to lay that over on top and just kind of freehand a little bit and follow that on down. So now I've just made that a little bit wider. So I'm going to take that now, cut that out. This is going to be my pattern. You could use the paper to trace your material if you were just using cardboard, because that's kind of thick and hard, the corrugated cardboard, but this I feel is much easier to use. So now I'm just going to cut this out. So these will actually be the wings that I'm going to use. This is what I will cover in fabric. I feel it is thick enough. If you don't think the piece of cardboard that you have is thick enough, put two pieces together. That works as well. Or stack a whole bunch of junk mail together. Again, you get those thicker card stocks that come through. We get a lot of junk mail in our house, so I have a ton of junk mail around. But this is a great way to recycle as well. So there are my wings. Before I cut my fabric, I'm going to put these up to my jar and say, do I like that? Am I happy with the way they look? And yes, I am. To me, they're a little bit of a butterfly shape. I like that. So now I'm going to take my piece of fabric. You can use any kind of fabric that you want. You know, you can go solids, especially, you know, greens would look really pretty if you were going to do a Christmas angel. You can do patterns. This was a piece of material that I got at my local library, so I think I may use this. This would be really nice for a veteran or for somebody who is in the service. You definitely want to put your fabric face up so you can see where your pattern is going to lie. You know, what do you want? Do you want, this one happens to have a flag and some fireworks. You know, do I want that on both of my wings to make them somewhat even? And I would think yes. So unfortunately, you know how you always try to, you know, not cut in the center of a piece of fabric, but sometimes you just have to if that's the pattern that you want. So I think I'm going to put it there. I'm going to take a Sharpie, because I think a Sharpie, or you could also use a white pen, a white paint pen, but I think I'm going to be able to see this a little bit more. Just the way this pattern is, because it's a little uneven, just to get more of the red, white, and blue on each side, I'm going to tilt it a bit. So now I'm going to take my paint on my Sharpie, and I'm just going to trace along the pattern. Holding it down, making sure I don't move it. Tracing along. The nice thing with the Sharpie is it gives you a nice thick line. And just cut this in half right now, just to make it a little easier to cut. I'm going to cut it just a little closer, just to make it easier to see for the camera, so I'm not blocking you as I'm cutting. So all right, so I've just cut that out a little bit more. The other thing that you can do, and I will show you this right now, is here is your pattern. Cut about, a 1/4 of an inch away from your pattern. This is a little easier to do too if you haven't put a lot of scallops and things. I did. If you have more, like the first one, if you have more of a solid line, that's a little easier to do. If you cut, and you can do it two ways, you can either cut directly on the line, or cut about, you can see I'm cutting about 1/4 of an inch away from my pattern. All right, so cutting 1/4 of an inch away from my pattern, you can see there was the pattern. What that would allow me to do is I could fold that edge in as I glued, which would give me a very smooth edge. On this one, You can see, it's hard to see because I added the pearls, but I did not. I just glued both sides because you're going to have to cut 2 of these. I just glued both sides together and then took the pearls and put them around the edge so you wouldn't see such a raw edge. So if you were really concerned about a raw edge, you could do it this way. And then you're going to need to cut some lines down so that allows you, that would allow you to fold it over. So by doing that, you can see if I fold that over, I'm going to have my pattern right there. You're not going to take the chance of gluing and seeing that. So I would do that on one side, and then on the other side, cut right to the line. So there's my one side. I'm going to do the same thing. This one, when I do it, I'm going to cut right on the line. And again, if you have a very dark fabric, you probably want to get a white. I just want to highlight this a little bit more, make it really dark. You want to get a white marker. They have those at Dollar Tree too. All right. Now you can see the pattern there. I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to cut this out just a little bit around the edges, just so I don't have so much fabric. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because you've already seen me cut once. So this time I am cutting along my edge, right on that line. As you could see, it was extremely dark down on this side. And of course, I picked a pattern that also had lines on it. So it was a little harder to see exactly where my lines were that I had to cut. So if that happens, what you can do is just put your pattern back over to see if you cut right. And you can see right here, I went down a bit too far. So I can just hold my pattern there, cut up a bit. It doesn't have to be that exact. So now we have 2 sides of material. All right, so now that I've cut my pattern out, I'm going to start with the one that I cut about 1/4 of an inch more of. So I'm going to start with that one. And what I want to do is I want to put some glue down along the edges here. And lay that down. I can put some more glue there because I've lifted it up. Could use a glue stick as well. There were people in class that had used a glue stick. That gives you a lot more wiggle room too, of being able to pick it up put it down. I'm going to flip that over a little bit. I've snipped little pieces. Follow along that line. Use the silicone finger. Folding that over. So you can see this is going to be the back. So now I'm going to start to fold over. And remember, I have gathers here, so you want to make sure that you snip anywhere there's that little bump. If you do scallops, if you do just a straight line like this, a lot easier. But if you do the scallops, you just have to take a little bit of time to go through. Put some glue down. Folding that over. Smoothing it. You can see the only hard part here is you can see a little bit. If I don't get it exactly, you're going to see a little bit of my Sharpie line. For this particular pattern of material, because there are so many other lines, you're never going to see that. So I don't have to worry so much. If you are using a solid colored fabric, if I drew on that and cut it out and didn't get it placed exactly, you would see that line. So I would definitely suggest drawing your lines on the opposite side of the fabric and maybe using a pencil or a white marker or even a piece of chalk, so then you wouldn't even worry about it. So I'm going to continue. And again, this is really an unnecessary step if you don't want to be that exact. I just like to show multiple ways to do things. So if you really wanted to have a nice clean edge, this would be the way to do it. But again, if you want to just cut right on that line and then glue it on and not worry about it, you would be completely fine. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. Lay that down. Fold it over. Lay some glue here. And continue going all the way around. And hop up to the top. Moved it a little bit. I just want to make sure I get that part closed. Pulling down as I'm going. I have a little bit of extra. snip that off. Fold that down. So you can see there's that side. I wasn't as careful on this side, so this is a good example of where you can see if I had a solid fabric, that line was not folded over well, and you could see, you definitely would see it. But because this has lines, you're not seeing it. This is the pattern that I have cut right on the lines. That will go onto the top. And we're just going to glue all the way around. Some glue all around those edges. I'm going to do one side, then the other. Smoothing that down. And do the sides. And again, a glue stick should work if your fabric is not that heavy. I'm using a thin cotton, so glue stick would work. If you were using burlap, I would use a glue stick. I mean a glue gun. So now you can see I have both sides glued. If it hangs off a little bit on the edge, you can just take your scissors now, clean that up. Because you folded your edge over, you don't have any cardboard showing. When you do a scallop pattern like this, it's a lot more difficult to get all your nooks and crannies. That's why I had to trim. If I was doing just a good basic solid shape like this, it would be a lot easier to do. But because I did this one and it has a lot of the edges, that's why it gave me a little bit more trouble. But that is how you can do your wings if you're using the cardboard. Or as I said, if you're doing a very basic shape, lay your piece of fabric down, lay it upside down, trace, flip it over, trace, cut both of those out, and then just glue your edges together. And then if you weren't exactly getting them glued together correctly, you could put beads, you could lay a thing of ribbon around the edge, or just leave it and it would be fine. Nobody would even really look at it to see it that closely. If you did not want to use fabric, a lot of you that have followed my crafts, you know that I love to work with book pages. So book pages would look really cute too, to put the angel in with a book page, or even map pages would be really fun. So that's another way. So wrapping paper, anything that you have around the house, that's a great way to use that up. So now that I have my wings, you can decide what way you want that to look. Seeing which pattern looked a little better, of which way you want to put that on there. Those will be your wings. You need to decide, do you want to do a little something around the neck? Do you want to decorate that a little bit? I think I do. I think I like that way. And I think I want to put a little something around her neck. So I think I am going to take a piece of, let's do a piece of lace. I'm going to take a piece of lace. And I think I'm going to wrap that around her neck. When you're doing that, you're going to want to say, where do I want that to go? This has a scallop pattern in this particular lace. So I think I want that scallop to be right in the middle, because then that will look like a collar. So I'm going to take my bottle. Look at your bottle too when you're getting ready to do this. This particular bottle had lines on each side. So maybe look at that to see where you want your bottle. So I'm going to take a little drop to start with, just so I can know that I'm getting that right in the middle. And then now I can lay it down. Put a little line of glue around the back. Bring that over and down. And over and down. So now she has a pretty little collar. And I think what I'm going to do is, now that I have her collar on there, I think I'm going to take a pearl bead that I have, put a little bit of glue right in the center, and place my pearl. You can also use buttons, charms, anything that you want to add. But you definitely want to do any decorating of your bottle before you put your wings on. It's just a lot easier to hold. You could put beads all through there, whatever you wanted to do. Wrap it around with anything, whatever you wanted, that would work. So now I've decided I want to put it that way. I'm going to put glue right down the center. Take my bottle, know right where I want to place it, right underneath, lay it, and hold it. And you want to just push. Just kind of give it a good hold. If you were going to embellish your wings with the pearls or lace or something, you want to do that too before you put your wings on. Don't glue your wings on until you're completely finished with them. So now she has her wings on. I'm going to jump over to this one. You can see with the top, with that gold fringe, I just cut a piece, laid it all around the top to give her hair. What I think I'm going to do is kind of give her a little bit more of a fancier hairdo. So I'm going to take some of the pieces of fringe. I'm going to go 2 on one side, but I'm actually going to do 3 on this side. So I'm going to take these 2, bring them up. I am just going to tie that. So I want to give her some bangs. I have it where I want it, so I'm going to slide it a little bit. Put a drop of glue right there. Keep that tied together. I'm just going to bring that forward. Let those 2 ends fall down. I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to put a little bit right there on top. I'm going to bring these 2 pieces down and over. Because like I said, I want her to have some bangs. So I want those on the top. I'm going to just hold that in, glue that together. So you can see, those are going to be ready to be made with bangs. I'm going to take this other piece from the top. I'm going to put a line, little line of glue going over the top down to the bottom. As you can see, 2 are under, 2 are over. So now by taking this other piece, I'm framing her face with it. And now all those pieces are under. So that looks a little bit more even. You can see. And then I think I'll cut it. I think that'll be a little easier to make my bangs. So now you can see I can just take my fingernail, undo these. And there was a person in class that did this, so I can't say this was my idea. They did this. I love teaching the classes first and then doing the video because my students always come up with fantastic ideas, things that I don't see. So now look how cute. She's got some little bangs. She's got pretty long hair and some little bangs. And you can see with this one, I put a button and then I put one of the little pearls there and then did the wings. So she's a cute little garden angel. I'm not making her a garden fairy. I'm not making her an angel because she doesn't have a halo. You can see this one. I took that same fringe and I just glued a circle around that and I turned her into an angel because now she has a halo. So to do this type, you can see an example here where I took multiple pieces of ribbon and fabric and lace and put them all together. This is definitely more of the shabby chic. I somewhat prefer this method a little bit more. This is another one. This could be this was from a silk scarf. And you can see that's a little bit more along like the fall line or even a little on the more masculine side. So if you wanted to do, give it to a veteran or even a memorial, this is a little more masculine, which would be a nice thing to do. So what I've done with this is I've just taken ribbon. I've cut it. I like to go longer than what I think I'm going to need because it's much easier to trim it. So you basically want to take your stick and you can see I went way longer than what I needed to do. but that was just a little easier because then I can go through and trim it. With this one, I cut at an angle, and again, that was from somebody in class. Originally, I had taken my long ones and just tied them together at the bottom, but I had people in class that actually cut at an angle, and I loved that, so I ended up cutting this one, and I'll do the same with this one. But once you have your basic length, that's about 12 inches, a little give or take, you're going to establish your pattern of what you want. I happen to have, for this particular one, I'm using a dark pink. I'm using a lace. So I've got lace, dark pink. I've got blue lace. I've got a very light kind of peachy pink. And my fabric. And this is the fabric that I'm choosing to use. And all I'm doing with the fabric is I'm just cutting strips. You can tear it to give it more of a shabby chic look. I found I did not really have good luck in tearing it straight down. You know, you follow the grain, but sometimes I wanted to go against the grain. And if you're doing that, you have a tendency to tear off in little pieces. So I just found it much easier to cut. You can do any width that you want. I like it on the thin side. To me, that gives it much more of an ethereal look instead of the really thick pieces of fabric. I like them, about maybe half an inch, no more than a half inch, a little under a quarter of an inch. I like it a little thinner. So you're just going to take any piece of fabric and cut those into strips. You can use all straight fabric. Again, like silk scarves, all lace, you know, whatever you would like. I was going with a bunch of different ones. A good trick is once you get your first one on, take some hot glue, put it on your edge, bring your first strip right over to it and a little off the edge. This way, you've kind of covered your edge, and then your strips aren't going to fall off. I would do that with your very first one. You can see on this, there are little bumps all along the edge. I like the bumps, so that's what I consider the front. On this side, you can see it goes in, so there really isn't a bump. It goes more in. I think that's the back. You choose which way you want to go. And once you decide which way you want to go, you want to continue the same way. So you don't want to put your pieces of fabric on one way and then do it a different way. You want to continue. With this one, I did a pattern. So I did a piece of fabric, a blue, a gold piece, this peachy color, a piece of fabric, a piece of lace, the pink, and then start it all over again. So if you want to follow a pattern, you know which way you're going. Let me show you on a plain popsicle stick to start with. It's a little easier. So I've cut my lengths of ribbon. Once you have your first length of what you want, use that as your pattern. So I'm going to take my ribbon. I'm going to use this as a pattern. I'm just going to follow through, and then I know where to cut. So that's how I got all of my piles of my ribbon. With my fabric, I just cut. This was the way the fabric came. I just cut the length. And again, you will be able to trim. But once you have your lengths, the easiest way to do it, take your two ends, put them together. This is going to be the same with fabric or with ribbon. But put your two ends together, fold that in half. You can either go whatever's easier for you to manipulate. You can go over the top and under. I like to put the stick on top of the ribbon or my fabric. I like to put that on top, put my two fingers through the ribbon, reach over the stick, grab those two pieces, pull it through, and pull. That gives me my bump on that side. Again, take your ribbon, match the two ends. I like to put my popsicle stick over, put my two fingers up, go over, grab, pull through. And that way, if you continue to do it the same way, you're going to have your bumps on one side and your indents on the other. If I were to do it the opposite way, I'm going to take my ribbon. I'm going to put it over, put my two fingers down through, grab the pieces and pull it. You can now see that my bump has switched sides. So now I've got my indent where the other two were on top. So whatever's more convenient and feels more comfortable to you, whether you're going over, under and grabbing, or putting the stick over, bringing your fingers up and through, whichever method is better for you. Just pick one and then continue doing it. Ribbon will have, as you can see, ribbon will have a tendency to want to undo. So you're going to want to really, once you get this on here, really get it on, pull it nice and tight. And then once you quit playing, when you're all finished, then you can go through and do a final tug. To use fabric, I have found the easiest way is to take, there's a wrong side of your fabric and a right side. So the right side for this fabric is a brighter color. You can see that's a very faded color. This is the brighter color. I'm going to put my two right sides together here at the bottom and follow that up. You can see it's going to fold over a bit. But I've got my two right sides together. I'm going to put my popsicle stick down. I'm going to bring, just like I did before, I'm going to bring my two fingers up, grab, pull it through, and tighten. So now you can see by doing that, they're both, the material with a little bit of manipulation here is going the same way. So then you just keep continuing on. And again, with a pattern, if you have all the same material, it doesn't matter. If you have other colors, you want to just continue to put those in, figure out your pattern, and go. So I've got my gold, I've got my peach, I now need a piece of fabric. So I would continue on. I've got to go the opposite way. I gotta hold that upside down because I was going this way now because I'm coming towards my end. So I'm gonna go under. And what you can do is when you glue that, that gives you the ability to kind of push those out of the way to give yourself a little bit more room. Put my 2 fingers through, pull up, pull down, tighten that one. I've got that. And then if you have to, if it flipped for you, now is your time where you can manipulate it. Get it how you want it to show. So I can just fold those right over. Pull it down and push it over. And then once you got all the way through, I would put all of your ribbons on first. Do not glue your popsicle stick. You might think it's easier to glue your stick and then put your ribbons on from there. I found it much easier to manipulate by just using the stick, because then I can pick it up, move it around, you know, do whatever I want. And then depending on the width of your material, that depends on how many you're going to put on. So I can't really give you a number as to what you're going to put. You just want them, you're covering your popsicle stick, so you don't want your popsicle stick to show. So you want them close enough where you're not seeing the popsicle stick poking through. And then you just decide from there. So it looks like, you know, I've got a little bit more to go. I just finished the pink, the fabric, so now I have to put a piece of lace. Putting my 2 fingers through, setting it down, up and over. So now I have my lace. Now I need to do a dark pink. Much easier if you cut them ahead of time, because then you can just grab, you can lay out your pattern in the order that you have to go. That's a lot easier. Again, when you're getting towards the end, it gets a little fiddly. Again, also take your ribbon, make sure they're together at the bottom. This is your time to adjust, pull, wiggle, bring it down, then they stay together. I've got my pink, and I need another piece of fabric. Again, when you're getting towards the end, a lot easier to keep the stick down a bit. When you flip it over, see how easy it is to separate. So just pull them together and then pull. That evens them up. Then you won't have a piece that's really, one piece is shorter than the other. But if you're trimming, it really won't matter then. I started with a piece of fabric, so I really want to end with a piece of fabric. I don't care about the other colors in the middle if I'm not exactly even with my pattern. I think that's good. I think I can end with that. I think that's pretty across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop with that last piece of fabric, push it over a bit, put a little bit of glue, on both sides, bring this fabric right to the edge, And then now I can move those all over to the sides. So now they're not going to go anywhere. If you're finding, you know, basically once you finish this and once you set it down, they're really not going to come apart. But if you want to tighten your knots and just kind of rearrange some of your fabric, now is the time to do that. Like, look at that one got hidden. So I just want to pull that out a bit. And if you're finding that you're not liking the way your knots are lying, if they're getting too loosey-goosey, you can always tighten it, and then on the back put a little bit of glue. That works as well. You can also decide, do you want to leave it just going straight and having it look like that? Or do you want to get fancy and maybe take another piece of lace to make it look a little bit finished, top and bottom? I think I am going to, this is what it would look like if I did that. I'll lay it down so you can see. So you can either finish it with a ribbon like that, or you can see on this one, I did not. I just left it plain on both sides. I think for this one, I am going to put a ribbon across. Make it a little different. So I'm going to take my top, right here up at the top, do a small line of glue. This has a gold edge at the top. So I'm going to make sure that goes right to the top. And then I left a little bit there. I'm just going to fold that over. Cut that. Put a little bit of glue there. Fold that over. And I think with this one, because I had cut this ribbon, as you can see here, this ribbon was very wide. So I basically was able to get 5 strips when I cut that ribbon in half to be able to use for my strips down here. So I'm going to do the same thing here on the bottom. Run a thin line of glue. Take my strip. I'm going to put the other part of the gold strip. I'm going to put that down near the bottom because I want my bumps to show. I like the bumps. So then I'm going to take, I don't think I'm going to do this to the back. I think I just want to do it to the front. So I'm going to even up that. And I'm going to even up that. put a little bit of glue on that side. Fold that over. A little bit of glue over there. Fold that over. And I don't think I'm going to glue anything on the back. I'm going to keep that kind of shabby chic on the back. I'm considering this to be my front. I'm going to trim off, make it look not so shabby, those little lines. But I consider this to be my front with the bumps. This is what I want to see. So on my bottle, I'm going to want it to go this way. So you decide whatever side. Do you want your bump showing? Do you want the indent showing? Whatever you decide you want for your front, you're going to glue it on this way. And what I've done, I think, do I want a contrast? Do I want lace? Decide, let's do a little bit of a contrast and let's do blue. I'm going to take another piece of ribbon, again, giving her a little bit of a neck outline. And by doing that, having a piece of ribbon, I'm going to wrap it around her neck. Put that to the back. So now she's kind of got a double neck in the front. I'm going to give it a bit of a tie. Just to secure it a bit here. So now she's got double ribbon there. With this tie, I'm going to put it right in the middle. I'm going to leave that like that because I want to be able to tie that as well to give it a little extra strength. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. I'm going to put a tiny drop of glue. Bring that back down and over, just so it's not moving around so much. Make that look a little bit neater for the back. Just going to put a little piece of glue over that. Again, you're not going to see this part. So you can see I've got some glue across the back, and these are hanging. We're going to decide where the middle is. I don't want to separate that. So that one's going to go on that side. That's going to be my middle. I'm going to put a bunch of glue right there on the front. Put it right in the middle. Even maybe hold these just to make sure you're not gluing them down. Hold those to the front. Put that right in the middle, right underneath. Hold it down. I've brought these to the front because I don't want to glue those underneath yet. Holding that in. That's the nice thing about hot glue. It dries so quickly. So now I've got that attached. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to have one coming down the top. I'm going to bring this other one underneath, right to the back here. So now by tying this, this is also just giving that extra added protection in case your hot glue doesn't work, because you could use E6000 and not have to do this step. I'm going to bring it all the way down here to the bottom and tie a knot. I don't know if this is long enough to do a bow. I just used one of the extra ribbons that I had already cut. There we go. Pull that down a bit, pull that down. I think that's the hardest part, is just trying to tie a bow. If you had a much longer piece, you could tie a very nice bow. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna put a little drop of glue there. Put a little bit on the back. Put a little glue there. Bring that other top of my bow up. And then that becomes a decorative element. So now there is my front. So what I would like to do is I like cutting the wings at an angle. Or you could just let it hang and let it be ethereal. This is what it looks like. Cut as an angle. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just lay it down, get them all even. You want to start at the bottom, which is basically there, and I'm just going to angle up. I'm going to hold those all down. So now I have an angle. If that wasn't enough, which I don't think it is for me personally, I want to see more of a shorter. So now I can come in this way. I can cut those. Because remember, it's always better to cut less the first time because you can't add on, but you can take off. So now I have those wings. And then I think from here, hold them there. And I'm just going to cut. And then you have range wings. And again, it's so much easier if you have to trim. It's easier to trim than to take back. So again, look how cute that is. If you have any gold twist ties, you could do that as an angel, as a halo. I'm going to take a piece of this gold braid. I'm going to use the other end because it was already cut from there. Just cut a piece. You could use the wired ribbon as well. Cut that because it already has the wire in it. Whatever you want to do. I'm just going to kind of give it a half loop. Put a little dot. Lay that in. And then now she's got a cute little halo. What you can also do, if you do not want to glue your top in, I pushed that down pretty well. If you don't want to glue your top in, you could get some battery-powered fairy lights, tuck those down in, and then be able to take that on and off, and that would glow on the inside. You could fill it with colored water. These came in green and kind of a whitish, a purple. So they come in different colors. This was the pink. So I'm not going to add anything on the inside of that because it's already pink. I am going to take a little heart button that I have. Put that right in the middle. I just like the little embellishments. So like I said, buttons are really fun. These make great gifts for people. If you wanted to put this particular one outside, you could. And you could also get the spray, Krylon spray. Spray it down the fabric just so this wouldn't kind of get eaten away. I would not do that with the cardboard. I think the cardboard would eventually fall apart. You really would have to either Krylon it or Mod Podge it quite a bit to be able to get that to be protected from the outside. But that is two different ways of how to make an angel fairy. So multiple ways to make the fairies, the angels. Lots of fun, lots of different options. You can use wrapping paper, book pages, whatever you would like to use. These are also cute as decorations. If you have a specific theme for a holiday, they're really fun to use. So I hope you had fun. Enjoy making these. Again, this is Kimberly Canale, Crafting with Kimberly. See you next time.